I am John Hopewell, or what is left of John Hopewell from Variety. I'm a journalist. Journalists, it's said, should tell the truth. So I feel that it is my duty to say that Peter Naderman, the keynote speaker in this year's Fiction Factory, is kind, brilliant, considerate, and also responsible for certainly making a lot of people in the world lose much more sleep and probably much more sex. As an executive at ZDF Enterprises, which is the commercial, international, and co-production arm of the public broadcaster in Germany, ZDF, Peter has been responsible for co-associate executive producing The Killing, the Millennium series of films, and The Bridge. These films form some of the banner titles in what has become to be known as Nordic or Scandi noir. But their coming into existence, for which Peter has been responsible, is just one thing. Their export, broadcast abroad, audience, levels, and reception was maybe one of the first indications of a fundamental pivot, shift in modern civilization, where audiences outside the country of origin of a fiction warmed to films or fictions, series, which were made in a foreign language. That trend is now molding the current, present, and future of entertainment in the world. Hollywood series used to dominate in terms of viewing. Now they account for something like 55% of viewing, I think, of primetime drama series around the world. After ZDF Enterprises, Peter set up Nadcom Film, based in Cologne. Nadcom has been responsible as well for building one of the most vital of fiction creation accesses in Europe between Germany and Spain. There also Peter has been a pioneer in co-production. The subject, at least in Spanish, of this keynote is, I think, something like co-producción en cine y televisión. Esta es la respuesta, which is a question. I would imagine that Peter's answer will be yes, but let's ask Peter to see. Peter, is co-production in the current state of film and TV the answer?
Thank you very much, John, for this very nice words. Can you hear me too? Yeah. That's a bit too much, but I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation, and it's a great pleasure to talk with you. So I'm always on the road to experience new things and to learn. You're right, John. It is, my answer is, of course, yes. It must be, because co-production is my business, and I believe since 30 years in it. And it showed up that it gets better and better. So I was, thanks God, on the right track. You could make wrong decisions sometimes, and then you suffer from things you cannot control. I hope you can understand me. You can understand me in English. What I have prepared for today, very simple. I would like to tell you a bit about my work, what I'm doing, how this works out, and of course I will tell you a little bit about my look on the market at the moment. So what means globalization in media, how we can cope with it, and how I think we should react on this. So that I hope we come to a point, and I hope you forgive me so that I'm a bit jumping back and forth. So I'm a great friend of the essay, and to catch reality, I think the essay is the best form to understand most of it. So there was a very famous German philosopher, Hans-Georg Gadamer, who once said, you don't lead a discussion, the discussion leads you. And that is a bit the motto. So, and of course you are later more than invited to ask some questions or to come up with some ideas. I told you, I'm here to learn. Because in my business, yeah, you have to be a speedboat. It was for me always very important to be quicker than the others, because I was alone and I had to struggle to fight all the others. And you can only do this when you are quicker and better than the others. So otherwise it will not work. Because co-production is a difficult business. It's never easy. And when I started this 30 years ago, I had the luck that I could start my career in one of the best TV departments of the world, I would say. Das kleine Fernsehspiel, and its famous leader Eckhard Stein had created in the 90s of the last century a TV department which was working with talent around the world. So we did Strangers in Paradise with Jim Jarmusch, we did Godard, I discovered Kaurismäki. So we had a lot of talent. And we did all forms. So we did films, we did TV, we did even videos with Bill Viola, we did video clips. So I had a very open spectrum to understand and to what sort of audiovisual product you can do. And that was for me very helpful. And then there's one thing which is of course important when you do co-productions. You have to be open for the other views of the world. There are people who like to travel in their home country and they appreciate to do holidays where they are coming from, and other people like to travel. So they like to find out new places and to understand something and find out to see how rich the world is. I was always fascinated by this. So from the very beginning of my career, I was always very interested to learn and to see what the others are doing. Because production is a very cooperative business. So a film is it in general. So you have to bring talent together as a producer from many sides. And when you do a co-production, you have to bring talents from different countries together. It's difficult because I had always this, let's say, idea that I had to be double as good for half the price. Because when you are not so good, then everybody does a domestic production. So because in all countries of the world you have in the end, and that is nowadays more the case than ever, you have mostly domestic or American production. So that to go in this niche and to make people interested for other programs which come from other countries, European, even the world, is very difficult. Because all the channels, they all tend to focus on their domestic stuff and the American driven. And things have, in this time, so changed a lot. I must say, when I look today on that, what Netflix and Amazon is doing, I must say they do it very right, because that was exactly the idea I had. So 15 years ago, so how you could work. And so they are intelligent, they are young, they are brilliant with talent. So they have all this ideas which makes them interesting and dangerous, of course, because they are so good. So, and that is another part I want to talk a little bit about later on. First, for this business, you have to understand the markets. So it makes no sense to do a co-production when you have not a product which could fit in your market, the market you want to distribute, you can control, and which does not fit to the talents you are looking for. So it's for example, it's a very bad proposal when you come with a Second World War story to Germany from abroad. Nobody in Germany is interested in this because they think, of course, that they are the best in Second World War stories. And so you have to find out what you can get abroad and which could work in your domestic market. And in this, and there it's maybe the best when you tell some stories that you can see how these things have developed. So it's maybe the best way to understand my way of thinking, my look on the markets, and my work. So I will mix this a little bit together. When I started with this international co-production, it was mainly in Europe, easier for us, of course, because co-production has a lot to do with the fact that people understand what you are doing. So a Scandinavian story where people are running around in the rain, the weather is bad, so they have their psyche structures, they're very social democratic societies, so it's very much like Germany. So it's not so difficult to transfer. Spain is even harder, South America is more different. That is something which has changed a bit with globalization, what we will find out later. So you need to understand what the market needs and what you can bring so that this works. When you look nowadays on European markets, so you can find out that they are mainly very old. Because in general, Europe is very old. So we are the old fun house of the world, so the museum a little bit. So, and we have a quite old population, which is very powerful. And that means that TV in Europe is still a bit old-fashioned, because these huge old audiences, they like programs which are a bit more for older people. And when you know old people, they have all a problem with their short-time memory. So that is the first thing which says goodbye. And so they like, of course, not so much serious, because the serious lives on short-time memory. So that's why we have still a lot of linear television in Europe, and this linear television loves procedures. So that means when you go to bed, you want to know that the killer is behind bars, so that the show is over. So that is one aspect of a market side you have to understand. We have younger people, of course, we do a lot of series, but you have to see what demands a market brings. To go back to my career, to catch this up, when I started with Scandinavian co-production, for example, it started with the analysis that Scandinavia is a very interesting part of the world, which has definitely the most modern TV structure and has public service channels which have huge audiences, and they feed this with very interesting programs. So it's, of course, when you can reach with your main show on a Sunday evening, 8 o'clock, which is super prime time, 50% of the audience of a country. That's a lot. So that's like Argentina playing the championship finals of a soccer world championships. So they had these audiences, and so that made them very risky because they had anyway good ratings. So that means to keep these ratings, they had to be very strong, very good, very modern, and they took a lot of risks to make this, to keep this high ratings. So, and these countries are very small. Sweden, 10 million, Denmark, 5 million, Norway, 5 million. So there's, of course, the market, the scene, everything is a bit smaller, but that leads more to concentration. So you have more talent, which is concentrated on one thing. Germany is a huge market, so we have 10 times more production. So there's much less concentration. So everybody is running around doing something. And these elements were interesting. So and then I thought, okay, how can I bring these qualities to Germany? And the invitation was literature, because Germany has the biggest book market in the world, I think. So maybe America is a bit bigger, but when you compare it to the size of the country, Germany is strong. So we have writers who sell 6-7 million copies, books. And at this time, when you come to a bookstore, you could fall over the pillars of books of Scandinavian crime writers, so especially Henning Mankell, who invented the Wallander series. So then I thought, okay, so you have to film this, and that could be my way to Scandinavia. And that has worked. So I got the rights of this book together with partners, and then we started to film them, and that was very successful. And that was the first invitation for a German audience to understand Scandinavian filmmaking, TV making, and gets a bit familiar with this world.
And what was that, what you filmed at first?
The first was, we filmed all these 10 Wallander novels.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a literature imperium of 10 big books. He wrote later more. He became a good friend, and on the first one we even worked together. So he wrote the first script, actually, so which is not normal. And he died, unfortunately, some years ago. But he was always a very open partner. And I found in Scandinavia all that what I need. An open TV landscape, talent, and people are open to do new things. And over the bridge of the literature, it works very well. That happens later in Spain too, but I will tell you about this a bit later. So, and that is, the idea of co-production is to cooperate, yes. So you can have very ugly co-productions which are based on financial exchange. So we had this in the past. So when we worked, so the Italians, for example, they always think that they have the nicest girls, and they want to bring them in the shows, and so then it's a deal about money. You do different edits, you do different music. So one set for Italy, one set for Germany. So that was, the old co-production was in a way a bad family party. So that means where everybody brings something in to share the costs, and in the end, it does never really work. So that's why my idea is to do originals. So I will take my audience by the hand and guide them into other countries. So that means when you love Swedish crime novels, you love maybe too how they are filmed. And so you appreciate that the style is a bit different. Okay, you don't know the actors, and you don't know the whole setting. Everything is a bit new, but there's something. I must say, in between, in brackets, I was always fascinated by the fact that good things work good and travel good. So, so that means when you do something which is nice and works, is well done, it works. So that is the best in our business, actually. And that's why this quality was for me always very important. So double as good for half the price. So because otherwise nobody would be interested. Half the price means, of course, co-production is something very economic. Because, yeah, you can share the cost a bit on more than one shoulder. So Germany, for example, has a market which is very domestic. So we have a lot of production. It's a big country, we have money, and that means that most of the production is 100% financed by German TV channels. And that makes this programming quite boring, actually, because these TV channels, so they have their idea of their audience, which is, they are never honest about it, quite old, and that's how they program. And at the moment, they are actually quite successful with this programming because my parents don't watch Netflix. So that means the older people, they stay. So where shall they go? So that means that at the moment, there is a market which is strongly dominated by an old audience, which gets older programs. And, okay, because this product is not so good to sell on the market, you have to pay it alone. And the idea of co-production is, of course, that you can work with others together, bring elements in, and make this work, and you can share the costs a little bit. After the Mankell experience, we started to leave the track of literature a little bit. So we did it later with Millennium again, but then we started to do series. That was really an invention, because I so far had never seen something like this. We had it sometimes, but a strong horizontal series where you keep the audience on track for 10. The Killing had in the first show, they had 20 episodes. So that was fascinating for me. And so I'm a speedboat, so I invested very early in this, knowing that it was awfully difficult to sell, because at this time for programmers, a 20 episode series is horrible. So when it doesn't work, you have this 20 episodes, and how should you place this? And how can you keep the audience? So it's a risk. And it has worked, and I think that it's important to understand in Scandinavia, because when you have an audience which has so faithful that they stay there with you every Sunday evening, 50% of the people. So then you have a chance to do a lot because these people are there. So, and that was the basis for the series long before binge watching, that you have a stable, faithful audience on your linear channel where these people, they wanted to be surprised and they want to see something new. That's how the Danes, especially, then later followed by the Swedish, developed all this horizontal series, which was then catched up by the Americans, which they are always very good, very quick. So they work in the same system, guys. So they try to understand, they look very global, and they are very good in this. So they understand this very quickly. So, and they did remakes and followed up, and then with the streaming services as we know it today, it has changed the TV landscape a lot. And so it was then my job, and that is this business, and that's the way how I work, that I have always said that I love much more to create demand. So I'm not a TV maker who fulfills demands. So yeah, that is a normal way. So you have an idea of the audience. So that's for me the most boring discussion is when you come to a partner as a channel and said, okay, we have a deficit with women around 30, so we need programs for women around 30. So that is something totally stupid, I think. I never could cope with this. So I try to make good programs. Yes, I know that this program is more a bit art house, or this is more for a younger audience, or what. Yes, of course, I'm not stupid, but I love to create demand so that you find something new, and that makes it a little bit more difficult, of course, because you have always to convince the others to take this risk. And they don't like risks in this business. No business likes risks. So it's always better, but it's dangerous. So you could see that all the structures which do not take risks, they fall, very simple, because you have to take risks. So it was very difficult to sell The Killing, to make it happen in Germany. It took me a year, actually. I'm well connected, yes, okay. You have to know the people that you can push them in the right direction. And then it worked. People loved it. And then we followed up and did more of this. And we managed in a way, especially with later Millennium, which was a great mix of all of these elements. So there was a big book which was very much on the right point taken over, because we started very early to film it. So that means part of the success was the fact that when the book reached its peak, there's always, let's say, a wave of recognition. It started somewhere, then it gets bigger. And when the English read it too, then you know, okay, now it's on the world market. And then, so we had managed that we started very early to film. That means when the book has reached its peak, we could present a movie in Cannes. And that was not in the competition, but there was a market, and the people could see it, and they loved it. So, and that was part of this quite interesting success of this franchise. So, what I very simply do is that I try to find out where talent is, because I'm very interested in development, in both senses, in development of stories and in development of ideas and styles. And each market and each scene is, of course, a little bit different. I had always a great passion for the Spanish South American style, which is a bit connected, which is different from the Scandinavian, for example, or from the German, because I like this way of storytelling. I like this emotional intensivity. And so that is for me always the first step, that I can see something which I think is interesting, where I can get my audience to watch it, and that I get a certain quality, because we cannot be naive. So that means, of course, nobody is interested on a big market to see some very underdeveloped work from certain countries. So you need, when you are in this business, you have always to bring the peak, the best people of the other countries to convince your audience. And then, on the other side, my German market is a very good market, because you need, as a co-producer, you need a strong... Starts raining? No. Hello? Can you hear me? This the work? Okay. You need a strong domestic market to begin with. Of course, my interest is the world distribution as well, but I'm more a producer. So I'm interested in content, and I want to develop things. It's nice to have distribution as well, but that is not the main thing. So I need a strong partner in my country, and Germany is maybe the best co-production country in the world, I would say, because we have first the dubbing, which opens everything up for us. And the dubbing is now great, so everybody looked always at us saying, okay, you're so stupid, you can't watch these original versions, you have to be... And I was always smiling, because I know that it is only an economic factor, so that when you see Scandinavia, they have original versions only of foreign programs, Holland as well. But that's a bit like an elevator. So that means when you're not used to an elevator, you can take the stairs. It's sane, it's better for your health. You learn languages when you take the picture. But on the other side, when you are used to an elevator and you are loaded with 2 boxes of water, you take the elevator. So it's much easier. And that's the thing with the dubbing. So when you are used to a dubbing, so you can never bring an audience back to original versions. So some people will appreciate it sometimes, but and this dubbing, which was always a bit clumsy, protects us now a bit in Germany, because it's not so easy for Netflix and Amazon to take over control of the market, because they have to invest a lot, because they have to dub everything. So you can see this. So the library of these streaming services, they are much bigger in Denmark or in Holland, because there they can put every program subtitled on the stream. In Germany, they have to make a dubbed version, which is 20,000 euro per hour at least, which makes every program quite everything. So Germany is a good market, so because we can digest everything. So Spanish is as good as English or Portuguese or whatever language. And yeah, we are very domestic, but we are still interested in others. So, and there is money. So that means we have a tradition, which I'm a big part of it, yes. I have educated my audience a bit, but we have a tradition in co-producing. We like this. So, and generally in the European countries, you can see this. There is, except England. England is different. So they don't like to co-produce. So they like the money, but they don't like to share ideas or discuss it with others. So
I'm English, but
is this
like Peter, I like to travel, and I think that the problem with the English is, to a certain extent, cultural, that they don't feel they're superior to foreigners. They just don't know if foreigners are human beings.
Okay. Yeah, that's a bit.
If you are invited, or I invite friends, Spanish friends, for example, to a select dinner in London, they are treated rather like exquisite animals from the London Zoo. The second problem is that the UK has a huge and very good tradition of broadcasting, and they are very, very provincial because they have quite a large market themselves. They are rather like still parts of Hollywood.
Absolutely true. So it has two sides. We like English programs. They are very well done, especially extremely good written. But there's a different mentality. So when you like co-productions, but that's my job, because I have always bring TV editors together. So when I want to do a show from a certain moment, I have to bring the Spanish editor together with the German one. And you have to like this, and you have to enlight in these people the feeling that it's great to meet other people and to see what they are doing, and that it's fun to discuss things. And that fun never comes up for the English. The English, they think, okay, we are anyway better, so how we don't want to discuss this. So we like co-productions because we can share the budget a bit, but in the end, we want to do our thing. Just to know, you have to know it. So there are still possibilities, but it's more difficult. But especially Spain, France, and Germany, the bigger countries, they are actually quite open for co-productions, and they are used to it. So that means not that it's very easy, but there is a door, and this door is quite big when you can open. And I have always profited from this. And so that you can see how I like to work and how it works maybe best. I give you some examples of new productions I'm doing so that you can understand a little bit how this works for me. Okay, first rule, everything is always different. So you have never one path you can follow. So you have experience, but you have to rethink everything all the time. So things are changing, markets are changing, coincidences coming in. So you have to prepare it. And I have a wide range. So my core business is maybe high-end television because that works best. But I do always movies because in most of my markets, the difference between TV making and filmmaking is not so big. So in Germany, good directors do film and movies, and the same in Spain, and the same in France. So you have both sides. And I even like documentaries. So it's a personal weakness, so that I do every year some documentaries. So we have always a mix of some movies, some TV series, and I trust always my taste, so that's my idea. I like to do things I personally like, and I'm not so good in things I do because I think maybe they work in the market well and somebody wants it. I'm always best when I find something new that is the best. So like The Killing. So when I saw The Killing first, I knew that it's a genius production, but I knew that would be difficult to transport. And so that is my attitude. And I find, another weakness is that of course I want always to have the best things. So that is that I need my market strength. So I want to dominate my market, my co-production market, and I'm always a bit pissed off when I see something which is great, what I have not done. So ambitious, okay. So, and you find these projects on different stages. So we like very much when we find something very early. So that means first treatment, an idea, a discussion with a partner. So that's why I like networks, so that you are in communication with people and you find out. And that's why I'm here, for example. Yeah. So to meet early with people, to see what they are doing, and then we sometimes go into a development with others, so that we develop something together, or we follow a development, and sometimes things are a little bit further, so that there is even maybe a script, or people have started to shoot it, so you can see it a bit. So then it would be a later co-production, and sometimes we buy things as well when we see an enormous quality where we are eager to have it and bring it on our market. So we have this whole spectrum, and that we are very flexible. So we can always react here and there how it is. And when I got on the Spanish market, so as I said, I was always very fascinated by this Spanish film culture. They had great actors, so the writing was never so good, but it had interesting directors, and there was a lot of emotional power. You can see this actually now, I think, when you see a lot of this new Spanish series, which Netflix does, for example, these originals, they're all quite good, I think. So they landed this now. And to come on this market, so the first thing for me is, when I go on a market, is that I want to understand the market. So that means mainly I want to meet the talent. So I want to see which people are good. So I want to have an understanding. Is this a director who is more a bit old-fashioned, who is maybe bringing in a style which is more classic? Or is this a young director? Is this a writer who is more in this direction? I have to understand the producing scene, because for my business, trust and good cooperation is extremely important. So because I cannot stand everywhere, so that means when we have a co-production which goes totally wrong, so I have a lot of trouble. So then I have to go back and forth, and so I need partners I can trust in. So where I know, okay, we share an idea, and we share a business idea, and we share an idea to make it. You have problems always in this business. That's normal. So that needs a bit time. So I checked. I did a movie there, and I developed some things. And then came a literature agent. Yeah, you know, in another life I could be a literature agent as well. So I love books, and I have filmed so many books. I'm friend with all the writers I have filmed, and I thought it's always a great privilege that you can meet these people, and sometimes I meet writers and I know you can never film them, but it's interesting. So, and I like this. And this lady, she offered me a book which was a manuscript. It was not published, and I read it, and it was a crime story that happens in the Basque Country. So I don't know whether you have an idea of Spain. The Basque Country is very special. First, it rains a lot, very nice for a German perspective. So okay, not Sevilla where the sun is shining all the time, and so you have a and then it's full of this mystic implications, and it was a crime story, a bit like Millennium. So there were many elements. It was a young writer, so it was a first-time writer. So it was her first book, and I bought all the rights. So I found it interesting, and I thought this could develop. Thanks God, this book became then very famous in Spain. So it was a huge success. And the writer became famous. She's a great lady, so she is very good in promotion. And it was a trilogy, so very nice. So it was a plan of 3 books in a row with the same character, a policewoman in the Basque Country, where you had each chapter in a way closed, but in the same way it goes on with a horizontal arc of the character. So everything I need. I could not expect that it became so. So and this can be a very difficult ride, because when you have a book and you run around in Spain to convince people to do this, but in this case it was the other way around, because the book was suddenly so famous that even Spanish TV stations called me and said, "Hey Peter, hello, how are you doing? So we have heard that you have the rights of this book." "Yes, I have." So suddenly I had, in a way, Spanish gold. So that was a perfect situation. So that means, because as I said, I love originals. So it was for me, I had offers to do this in English with Americans. You could think about do it in German. We do even very ugly German versions of international crime stories. So, but I decided in a way to do the Millennium model. What means to do a Spanish movie with a Spanish story, with Spanish talent, and bring this together. And with the success of the book, I could choose my partners. So I have done my homework before, so that means I knew which partners are good, so I could choose a great producer, very important, with access to interesting talent, very important, and a strong TV or backing. So what we got with Antena 3, which is one of the top players in Spain. So, and that was, let's say, lucky, I must say. It's not always so easy to build this up, and we do now a franchise out of this. So that means we have filmed last year or year before the first book, and now we are filming book 2 and 3. And we do it as cinema productions, which that was, so when I started, in a way, the best way. It changed now a little bit maybe, so you can, the Spanish financing system is in a way made for movies, so you can get state money easier, and the whole infrastructure is a bit better when you do a movie, and you can expect more quality. So we had budgets of about 4 to 5 million for a film, which is in Spain quite a lot. And so I got movies which work very well on Spanish cinema, and I can bring this now on the market. And finally, the international distribution ended with Netflix. So okay, so it was not a typical, but let's say a very clear way of going in a project and making this happen. And that is a way how I like to work, so very close to my partners in these countries.
Peter, maybe I could ask you just one question, and then we'll throw the keynote out to the audience and hope the keynote comes back. My only question really is a practical question. If you were an Argentine producer who has, they think, a great idea for a series which needs, or they would like to be co-produced in Europe, for example in Germany, what would you advise them to do, and what would you advise them not to do? I suspect there are quite a lot of Argentine producers in the audience.
first, of course, you should trust your ideas, and you have, in a way, to understand that you need a strong base in the beginning, either in your domestic market, so that you have partners here who are interested.
So you shouldn't go abroad until you have an anchor broadcast or financier.
Yeah. Or you have maybe a partner abroad, like that HBO or Netflix, so that they are interested. That is, so it's important that you have a base, because you have to be, you can imagine, extremely good that somebody is listening to you when you would have no partner. And this business is a snowball system. So that means when you have one partner, it's good. When you have a second one, because everybody is afraid and has concerns. And so that means if two partners have bite the worm, so the other fish is swimming around saying, okay, maybe now we should react too. So first, you should trust your idea. You should do your homework. And then you should find a domestic or structure which is a first pillar in this model. And then you can reach out for others to see, okay, are there possibilities to cooperate?
And how do you reach out, for example, to yourself or illustrious producers in Europe?
Yeah, you can only do this individual, I think. In a certain way, quality comes always through. So that is, but of course it can happen on the other side that you have something great which nobody wants to read. But so to make this happen is you need connection. That's why I'm going in the markets, because I want to understand the talent and I want to find out early. That's why I said I'm a speedboat. So I want to navigate quick. But you need connections, of course. So it's definitely good to go to these markets, to meet people, to get addresses where you can put your work on the right table. Maybe not the best table in the beginning, but that will grow. So this is, and then for the material side, so we have nearly a system now, so that you have this sort of package. Where you start with a good treatment to sell the idea. A professional will always look on the people who are involved. So what is the talent behind? So what has the director done before? Which actors do you have? And then a package to decide something means, in a way, that you have a Bible when it's a TV show, and a script of at least maybe 2 episodes, and a clear idea of producing it with hopefully a lot of talent attached. So, but this is always individual, but that is in a way this the structure which is established.
And for example, at this market or other markets like MIPCOM or NAPI, can the producers just come up to you and tell you briefly about their idea, saying, we might be able to get you a treatment in a year or something like that? Or
that is a thing. It's always a thing of a feeling. So that means it makes, of course, no sense to come to somebody pitching an idea when this person is just want to relax a bit and smoking a cigarette. When you know somebody, then you can do it. So, and it's, of course, it's lovely. I love ideas. So, and when somebody comes with a great idea, great. But it's, of course, more professional in a way to connect people and to know people, and then enter them later professional with their stuff. So I don't trust this shedding around so much. So when you know somebody, then it's wonderful. Then you can have a dinner and you can talk and you can develop ideas and you can exchange things. And yeah, but you need, of course, a level.
And my last question: at the moment, you've worked, for example, with Piv Bernth at DR. You're working now with Adrián Guerra, who I suspect quite a lot of people here know, the Spanish producer. Are there qualities about them? I'm not asking do they play good poker, but which mean that you are especially attracted to working with them?
Yes, of course. So there I just remember a director once said to me about 3 things a good producer should have, and it's always good when you have more qualities of this. First, it's of course content talent, which is very important. So when I see Pio, a very good friend of mine, I did The Killing with her. She's a good producer, so she is intelligent, she has good ideas, and she's very well connected. The second element is style, so that's nicer when you have to deal with nice people. Yeah, so very simple. That is, I think, in all business, and people who have a personal and human quality that you can trust them. And third thing is influence and money, which is of course necessary too. So that's why I said when you have all 3 qualities perfect, so, and I would always focus a bit more on the content side. Yeah. So that means when you have great content and good connections and money, then you can maybe live with bad style a bit. Yeah. So when it works out. No, but that is normal, I think. So when you have these qualities, and I like producers who have a style, so that makes it easier for me, because you could imagine, I have once decided in a way to be a producer and not a director. What means in the end you have to deal with many projects. So that is an advantage and a disadvantage, I think. So sometimes when I'm a bit tired of my work, so I would love to have one project where I could put all my energy in and do everything perfect and direct it myself. And sometimes I'm very happy that I can be a surfer. So the waves are coming, and okay, there's a project you had a big hope, but it has not developed. Okay, you have to finish it. Then there's another one coming up, which is great and interesting. So I have a lot of projects, and that's important. It's good for my business, and I like it. It's but that means again that you need partners you can work with and trust, because you cannot go there every week and check things and when there are problems. And the best, and it's always, so I'm very much quality and style driven. So I think writing is very important, but I love directors. So, and it's of course much easier when you have a partner who has all these qualities together. So that means he brings the right people. So that means when you start with a great project, and then your partner comes with a very boring, old-fashioned director, so then you think, okay, so that's the problem. So we have to, so how can we fix this? Because co-production in the way I do it, which is very much on original. So my interest is in a way to find, for example, an Argentinian production which has the qualities you have here, which has the qualities of being international, and I want to help with my money to make it better. Very simple. I don't want to make it German. I'm not interested to make it in a way fit for my market. So that's not the way I think. I think I want to help to make it better, than it bring out the qualities you have here for an international market.
And you will put up co-development finance?
Yeah, yeah. So of course you can only do this when you see a clear quality. So, but yeah, and that will be more and more important, because in the end it's of course all about talent. And when we come, so at the end, a bit back to this market again, where we all have to navigate in, then you can see that this talent is very important. Because I meant it serious when I said that these big players like HBO, Netflix, Amazon, so they do many things very right. So, and I can understand their work style very well, so because it's smart. So they have the market power. They can do niche programs because they have a wide audience. Yeah? So they can do Roma, which is definitely an art house movie, but when you have an audience all over the world,
you have a long tail.
Yeah, then you have a lot of possibilities. So when you have only one country where you can present this and that doesn't work, then you are on the bad side. So we have to see, and so I understand these people very well. I can work with them very easy because they are young, they do the same what I do. So they are present in the markets and they try to understand what works. But of course their interest is to dominate the market. So market domination is the idea of all these big players. So it's the Amazon role model. So that means you invest a lot of money, you can make a lot of investments, you have a lot of debts, and you dominate the market. Yeah? So when you go to a smaller city in Germany, you will not find one shop. So there is an Amazon delivery station, and you see only hairdressers and tattoo studios. So that's the only thing which Amazon cannot deliver. So, and so that works, of course. And so, and for us, and that brings us back to this theme of my little excursion today. So the interesting thing with these big players is that they do things very right and they can attract big markets, so which is for them very nice. We can do things good, but we are independent and we have to find the right way to make these things happen.
If people were to co-produce with you, for example, you mentioned that the Baftan trilogy of films, I believe, will go to Netflix after probably a domestic theatrical in Spain. Yeah. Is there any certainty about what will happen to your co-production together? Because surely it could go the traditional broadcaster route, or it could go to a platform, or there could be some combination as well.
It's all of this, actually. So, and that's we have to navigate in this world, and this world has changed. Because when I started, so there were only these public service players. So that was the only possibility to find partners who have money and who could invest in your projects. This has now changed. These old dinosaurs are still there, and in Europe they are still quite strong. So ZDF is the biggest co-producer in Europe, I would say, yeah, definitely. So they have this money, so that means on the one hand you have to help them to change and to get more modern, and on the other side you have much more possibilities. And you could see when Netflix started in Europe, so which is not so long away, so that means every producer was very proud, so that you can do a Netflix show. So because it's understandable, it's modern, it's young, it has this, the talent likes it because you have access to huge audiences, so you have a chance to be seen in America, and these people were young, they were much more open than this bit more traditional TV editors, from linear channels. So it looks good. After the first experience, then you realize, okay, it's of course not everything gold for shines. So and then you realize suddenly that, okay, this system is at work for hire. So that means you have not much rights left.
Does it also mean something which was touched on at a panel where Manuel Martí, who is in the second row from Polka, was talking that, hola Manuel, that also you have less maneuver as a producer, because some of the productorial responsibilities, for example in Spain, in costing your services, are in fact taken from you by a platform.
Yes, of course. Manuel is of course absolutely true. That is, what they do is absolutely right and clear from their side. So they are mainly interested on the talent. So that means that is the thing which you cannot do by business decisions. You have to have the talent, and you have to find it, and you have to work with it. The rest you can organize. And in Spain, for example, yeah, so they were surprisingly, not for me, but for the others, so very successful. They did 2 series, House of Casa de Papel and Elite, which were quite good, I think.
And when you say very successful, according to the Binge report, which of course just measures social media, we don't have figures from Netflix, they estimated that La Casa de Papel was for several weeks the most binged, i.e. consumed over 4 episodes, series in the world, including US series. And Elite, which came out in early October, was the same. It was the #1 in the world, every nationality included.
Yeah, and that's how I always work. I see a lot, and I don't think that I'm a miracle, so that means what I like is most probably some other people like too. So, and that's the same with a good restaurant. These shows are simply quite well done, and they reach a certain audience. But you can see now with this success, which was a bit surprising that it came from Spain, for Netflix too, and you're right, so internal, I think the numbers are very good for them. So they think that they build up now a studio in Spain, so where they will collect.
They're building, yeah.
And that is, of course, let's say for a domestic producer, a challenge, yeah, because that is not the idea. So when you like, in a way, to bring the best tomatoes to the market, so that was always your business. And when suddenly there is a huge shop who has your, let's say, address book, so that is a little bit difficult. I believe very much, and forgive me this little political statement, I believe very much in small units. So that means when you have small units, they can work much better and much more individual. So that means when you look at states and conglomerations, you could see a small country like Denmark or Switzerland works perfect. So they have everything organized on a very high level, and they can do it concentrated for their population. Germany, 10 times bigger, is not as good because it's bigger. Europe, much bigger, totally confusing, and the world, chaos. So that means as smaller you can have the unit, it's as better it is. And when you look at, and unfortunately, and that is always, let's say, now I get a little bit philosophical, forgive me, at the end of a decade or epoch, or maybe only at the end of an economic circle, you have always this situation that the big powers, so the state and the big companies, get bigger and bigger and put pressure on the people. And that's what you experience at the moment, I think. So that means the states getting weaker, and on the other side demand more and more. And these huge companies on the other side demand more from the other side. And so you are in this pressure situation. That is not good. So it's always good for markets when they are free and open and they can exchange. So yeah, that is my business. I want to work, and it's always good for the quality when you have this. As bigger the structures get, they get always dominated. It's logic, and it gets worse. Yeah? So and that, when you then stop with this political side, when you transfer this to our business, I think it's very important that we stay independent and navigate with this, so that we see our qualities and that we ourselves try to team up. Of course, we have to play with the Netflix and the Amazons. They are good, so there are possibilities. I do the same. But we have to keep our identity and have to keep the ideas a bit under control. And that is, I think, very important to navigate in this world, which is yeah, rapidly changing, definitely.
Thank you.